See, now you might have many might have tried, attempted with this homework, right? So, were you able to connect the things which I have shown here? Please let me know. Like, did you connect these things to fundamental values? Did you connect these things to public interest, public trust? Okay, some of you might have tried, but the thing now, like somehow today we'll be covering. Okay, we got a message. I have connected to fundamental rights. Oh, great, great. Okay. See, like why I'm saying is this is the way, this is the character of a well-educated person, right? Well-educated person, like how they behave, how the things. Now, I am giving one more hint here. You have got foundational values with respect to integrity, with respect to objectivity, with respect to being impartial and non-partisan, with respect to being empathetic. Try to connect. Not only that, try to connect these things with the entire syllabus. After that, if the whole syllabus of UPSC is in your mind, try to connect with that. So you'll get innumerable number of points. But this act is not that easy. Everybody says, now everybody knows what is transparency? Being open. Then being open, how it solves the things. Here, one point you have to internalize is civil servant is an executive. He is just executing the things. He is executing the law. By that, he is executing the constitution. In this regard, you have to take into consideration one important thing, that is public interest. This is the one most important thing. Like however I say, however like uh, the time I take to explain this, the utility and the importance of this concept is far big. And at the same time, civil servants are acting on the trust of public. Public have given these things with trust. He has to uphold this trust. So once again, like today we'll like try to complete the corruption. Tomorrow, the same things, what I have told, I'll try to connect. So I find little time, but I will try to connect. If you have tried and if you can get like good points better than me, like already you're in line with UPSC preparation, right? So having said that, let's get begin. So these things we have done with. Did anyone try to answer the previous year questions? Okay. Aggravation of corruption. Here, these factors you cannot write explicitly with respect to causes of corruption. You have to say aggravation of corruption. Though in general, you can write. In general, you can write these things as causes of corruption, but these are specifically the factors which aggravate, means already corruption is there, which increases, which worsens the case. That is the one which you have to internalize. So colonial legacy. Here in colonial legacy, we had unchallenged authority. Means civil servants were having unchallenged authority because these people were not responsible and were not able to, like people were not able to hold accountable with respect to anything which they do. So they were having unchallenged authority. Because of this, they were exercising powers arbitrarily. See here, discretion is different, arbitrariness is different. If you are utilizing your power, if you are exercising your power and authority the way you want, on what you think is good, all these things, then it becomes arbitrary. On the other hand, discretion is when you are given the chance, you are given the chance to take your own decision, means that is left to your discretion, right? And also in our society, as you are aware, like we worship power, like nowadays in a wrong way. The power has been equated to leadership. Because of these reasons, second IRC says that corruption has increased. Let me explain these things in second IRC word. There is a colonial legacy of unchallenged authority. So these terms you have to like keep a book or something like that, so that all important terminologies you have to write it one side. Unchallenged authority and propensity to exercise power arbitrarily. So these are colonial legacy, means the things which are we are being carrying since the colonial times. In a society which worship power, it is easy for the public official to deviate from what is ethical. Please internalize this line. This is very important. In our society, we are worshipping. It mean to say that we are giving more importance to power. We are not giving more importance to values. The other way, say for example, if the sentence was like this: in a society where people worship values, people worship values, it is difficult for the public officials to deviate from the ethical conduct. This is hypothetical one. But in reality, what is happening in a society which worships power, it is easy for the public officials to deviate from ethical, because their value set is their behavior, their thought, action are determined by value. These value sets are having that component, that is worshipping of power. So the civil servants also are humans, are part of society. So they deviate from what is ethical to get the power, right? Next, enormous asymmetry of power. So the things which I am teaching here are exclusively from second ARC, and they are very, very important. Means that clarity, that specificity, you won't get anywhere. Nearly 80-90% of the people are working in unorganized sector. So 90% are working in unorganized sector, and organized sector only 10%. And nearly 70% of the organized workers are working under the state. See, this among this 10%, once again 70%. They are working for the state and they are well educated. See the difference here. 90% are working in unorganized. Only 10 are working in organized sector. In that, out of 10%, 70% are working for the state. So here there is a imbalance, asymmetry with respect to power. Means these people are very, very powerful. So such asymmetry of power reduces societal pleasure to conform to the ethical behavior. Since more power is vested with these people, society is not in a position to resist the unethical behavior. Sorry. In second C words, there is enormous asymmetry of power in our society. Nearly 90% of our people are in unorganized sector. Quite a number of them lead a precarious existence, depending on subsistence wages with no job security. They lead a very pitiful life. So this 90% are not having power at all. Why? There is no job security, and they are depending on subsistence wages. What is this subsistence? Subsistence is, say for example, subsistence cultivation means you are cultivating those crops which are essential for leading your life, not for commercial purpose. Here, among this 90%, there is what is known as hand to mouth existence. Hand to mouth existence means they have to work and they have to feed. If they are not working, they won't get food. So here, 90% of the people are leading a very miserable life. And nearly 70% of the organized workers with job security and regular monthly wages are employed by the state directly or through public sector undertaking. Almost all those employed by the state are well educated in a largely illiterate or semi-literate society. Economically, even the lowest of the public servants are better off than the most people in the country. Their employment in government comes with all the trapping of power. Such asymmetry of power reduces the societal pressure to conform to the ethical behavior and makes it easy to indulge in corruption. Right? Did you get the point here? Let me brief the things once again. 100% population. In this, 90% are in unorganized sector. These 90% are almost powerless. There is no job security. They have got hand to mouth existence. On the other hand, 10% are working in organized sector. In them, 70% are working for the state. These people are well educated. The 90% are uneducated. This economically well off. So that is the reason even now, if you go, one of the condition to get bridegroom, one of the condition to get a girl is government job. Many movies also are made. Like if you get a government job, then only we'll give the girl. Why? Because these are the things. The lowest of the public servants are also better off than most. The lowest, say for example, a small teacher, a nurse, they are better off than the rest. Because of this asymmetry means no equal balance of power. These 90% of people are not in a position to make this 10% of the people who are abusing the power to conform with the ethical behavior. Right? Any doubt with respect to this? Simple English, that's it. I have made the things very clear. Okay. Then conscious choice. This is one of the important thing, and in fact, in my opinion, major reason. Because after independence, state was everywhere. State was everywhere. You take any sector, banking, it was the government there. You take public works department, government there. Production of goods and services, government. Everywhere government was there. So this government being present everywhere, and also because of the beneficiary schemes like subsidies, all these things, this made civil servants has something like master, though is by name servant, and those people getting this service as near beggars. Okay. Early decades after independence, India took up some policies. These policies put citizen at the mercy of the state. Very, very important. You can use this phrase anywhere. So these policies have put citizen at the mercy, at the whims and fantasies of the state. This happened by over-regulation, everywhere regulation. Say, for example, I want to come up with a soap factory. So for that, many regulations, many rules I have to follow. Those rules and regulations are so stringent that it is not possible for one to follow these things normally. So what happens then? We have to give bribe, and the state was having near monopoly of the state in many sectors. Next, subsidies and beneficiary oriented programs converted public servant into a patron or master, and reduced most of the citizens as mendicants. Mendicants means the person who lives by begging. Patron means a person who gives financial or other support to the person, organization, or cause. Right? So here you utilize 2 points here. Because of the policies, we had over-regulation and near monopoly. On the other hand, so state was the only person giving services. In the first slide itself, we saw monopoly. If monopoly increases, corruption increases. Right? And also subsidy and beneficiary schemes. Here, government was giving some subsidies and beneficiaries. Because of that, here, though the citizens are entitled for these services, they were just at the mercy of the officials who give. We got a message here. Sir, can you explain the subsidies and beneficiary point again? Okay, I'll explain this again. Don't worry. Okay. Okay. Let me just read out the things as given by second ARC. Then the things will be clear. Afterwards, I'll explain this again. Right? A conscious choice. As a conscious choice, the Indian state in the early decades after independence choose a set of policies whose unintended consequences, means these were the consequences which we never thought. Unintended consequences was to put the citizen at the mercy of the state. So because of these policies, the citizen was at the mercy of the state. Some of the policies which created conditions conducive to unbridled corruption or over-regulation. These are the policies which led to or which aggravated corruption: over-regulation, severe restrictions on economic activity, excessive state control, near monopoly of the government in many sectors, and economy of scarcity. In our economy, nothing was abundant. We were scarce. Food grains, even food grains we were not having. In fact, during 1960s, we imported a lot of food grains from Russia and many other countries. Right? Many state subsidies and beneficiary-oriented programs in a situation of asymmetry of power converted public servant into a patron and master, and reduced most citizens into mendicants. Means here, government is giving subsidy. Say, for example, if you take agriculture, it is giving subsidy. For fertilizers, it is giving subsidy. Next, beneficiary oriented schemes. Say, for example, a scheme for upliftment of women, a scheme for eradicating hunger. In that, they are providing food grains. Right? They are forwarding food grains. So these things are given by the state, and the citizen was receiving. To receive these things, he has to give some bribe. Not only that, here the main point is, though the citizen is the king in the administration, He became like a beggar because of these policies. He was not aware that I am entitled to these policies. He used to think, even now, many people in rural areas think that, okay, Modi ji gave me food grains, Yadurappa ji gave me food grains, Lalu Prasad gave me those things. No, it is not their money, it is your own money. So, to get subsidies or to get any beneficiary, all citizens almost acted as beggars. Till recently, this was a position. Even if you go to public distribution system, previously, you are entitled to take food grains, but the person who is distributing your food grains used to act as though a master, right? The above factors enhance the opportunity to indulge in corruption and reduce the citizens' capacity to resist extortionary demands. So these were the reasons, right? Approaches in dealing with corruption. So this concept you have to use directly to strengthen ethical and moral values in administration or government. For that, you have to use this concept, this topic. Okay, approaches in dealing with society. Here, I'll make the concepts here simple. Generally, two approaches are followed. One is relating to values, and another relating to institutions. Institutions in this context, you have to take as some rules, regulations, which the state is imposing to curtail corruption. First view is that there is a general degradation in the value system of the society. General degradation in the value system of the society. People have accepted corruption as part of society until and unless this notion goes out of people's mind, until and unless the value system of the people change, nothing substantial can be done. On the other hand, the institutional effect, which has in the form of rules and regulations, laws, it says that all are good, all people are good, but there is a minority, few people, only few people, they are deviating from what is ethical. Means in a society, think that 98% or 95% of the people are following the ethical standards, but only 2% of the people are not following the ethical standards. So it says that you have to punish these people who are not following, and you have to reward these people who are following the ethical standards. Second ARC concludes that in a society, in the modern times, not only value but also institution, both value and institution matters, because if these institutions act as container to the value, they give shape to the values, and they see that these values are taken forward over a long period of time. If institution is not there, this value system will be lost. And at the same time, it mentions that since people, civil servants, are acting under the trust of the people, and these people are having a lot of power, there has to be institutional measures, right? Sorry, let me like explain these things in a systematic way. According to second ARC, there are two approaches in dealing with the corruption. First approach is overemphasis on values and the character of the individual. Second approach is based on the belief that small portion of the people are deviant. If you punish them, then the whole things will be correct. But in the real world, second ARC says that both values and institutions matter. So this question may appear, if not in GS, it may appear in your, if not in ethics, it may appear in your GS also. So here they may ask, like in dealing with corruption, what is the best way? Are values or institution? Your answer should be both. Right. Second, as he says that there is a decline in value. So decline in value, this has given rise to increase in corruption. Many people lament decline in values and the consequent rise in corruption. So many people say that corruption has increased because there is decline in values. The implicit assumption is that until values are restored, nothing much can be done to improve the conduct of human beings. So decline in value system means here people accepting corruption, people accepting money, values. What are values? Values means those which are important. When people start feeling that money is important to us, definitely they will strive for money. If in the value systems there are something like integrity, then people will strive for this, right? So it says that until the value system is restored, nothing substantial can be done. Second is a small portion or deviants, they should be punished. That is the main theme. Most human beings are fundamentally decent and socially conscious, but there are always a small portion of people which cannot reconcile individual goals with the good of the society. There are some people whose individual goals will be different from what is good for society. Say, for example, there's a drug peddler. So this drug peddler will make a lot of money. If you go to southern America and Mexico, things like that, there the drug mafia, all these people are very strong. They are in fact maintaining military, police, all these people. So these people are getting money, but their goals are in different direction when compared to the good of the society. So we have to punish the deviant behavior. People follow the straight and narrow path if good behavior is rewarded and bad behavior is punished. I repeat, people follow the straight and narrow path, means people follow ethical standards if good behavior is rewarded and bad behavior is punished. But people tend to stray from the honorable path. People won't come to the honorable path, that is following the ethical standards, because good behavior is not rewarded and bad behavior is rewarded. This happens. Say, for example, a civil servant, IAS or IPS officer, if they try to show their integrity, what the politicians will do, they'll just throw them to some training institutions. Say, for example, there is a IPS officer. Instead of giving him civil posts like in Bangalore or any place like that, they will throw this IPS officer to prisoners. So, commissioner for jails. Okay, okay, IPS officer, you are very honest. Go and enjoy with prisoners. It's a very pathetical condition. I have come across. Say, for example, the director of Lal Bahadur Shastri, all these people, or Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Police Academy Director, all these people, these placements are punishment placements. As our Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal ji said, even a small revenue inspector makes 1 crore. See how the figures are. How dare a chief minister say this? Don't you feel he has got the truth? Because he was also working there itself. He says that a revenue officer makes 1 crore rupee. Then think about the higher ups, how much they will be making. So what they will do? Instead of giving these benefits, they will be thrown to some places where they won't get anything. Okay. The same things in the words of second RC. Second approach is based on the belief that most human beings are fundamentally decent and socially conscious, but there is a small always and there is always a small portion of people which cannot reconcile individual goals with the good of the society. Such deviant people tend to pursue personal gain who cannot reconcile individual goals with the good of the society. They tend to pursue personal gains at the cost of public good. And pursue and the person of organized government is to punish such deviant behavior. If good behavior is consistently rewarded and bad behavior is consistently punished, bulk of the people follow the straight and narrow path. However, if good behavior is not only not rewarded, but is actually fought with difficulties, and bad behavior is not only punished, but it is often extravagantly rewarded, then the bulk of people tend to stray from the honorable path, right? Second, ARC comes to conclusion that in real world, both values and institutions matter. Why? Values are needed as guiding star. Means values are needed as guiding star means values are needed as standards or principles. So North Star. So this was the one which was guiding all the sailors time immemorial. So this value should serve as a guiding star, as standard or principle. Values without institutional support will soon be weakened and dissipated. Dissipated means they gradually disappear, right? According to second ARC, values are needed to serve as guiding stars and they exist in abundance in our society. There is no dearth of for values in our society. Good values are always present. A sense of right and wrong is intrinsic to our culture and civilization. What is right and what is wrong is intrinsic. It is present within our culture and civilization itself. But values need to be sustained by institutions. Very important. This we already have values, but these values needs to be sustained by institution to be durable and to serve as an example for others. Values without institutional support will soon be weakened and dissipated. Say, for example, a civil servant. A civil servant is following all the things, all the foundational values, objectivity, impartiality, all this. Generally, what happens is thrown to some punishment places. On the other hand, there is one servant who is partisan. So he will get postings in the capital. It is rule and it is true. If a public official, if a civil servant is appointed in a metro or in any good capital, invariably, invariably, he has the backing of some politician. Otherwise, he would have not got this post. Like you might have heard many commissioners, many people working in city. All these people have got those posts not because of this merit. They have got those posts because of some influential peddling from influence. Institutions provide, okay, institutions provide the container which gives shape and the content to the values. This is the basis of all statecrafts and laws and institutions. While incentives and institutions matter for all people, they are critical in dealing with army of public servants. So incentives and institutional measures are very important in dealing with all people. But so this is important, the things here. But these institutional measures like reward for good behavior and punishment for bad behavior, these things are very important for public servants. They may be elected or appointed, endowed with the authority to make decisions. So these are the things what public servants do. So they have got the authority to make decisions and impact on human lives and exercise the power to determine the allocation of resources. They are allocating the resources. They are impacting almost all the people, almost all the lives. They have got the authority to make decisions. So these people, this is not their authority. These people are exercising authority on behalf of people. These are servants of people. So there has to be institutional measures. Public office and control over public purse offers enormous temptation and opportunity to promote private gain at public cost. I repeat, public office and control over public purse. So what is this control over public purse? It means that the money belongs to people. Control over people's money offers enormous temptation and opportunity to promote private gain at the cost of public. Therefore, creation of institutions and designing of incentives are of utmost importance in promoting ethical conduct of public servants. So very important. I have not changed even the lines. So how to improve the ethical conduct, how to strengthen the values, this you can directly write. Okay. Now coming to the challenges of corruption. In second ARC, they have given some innumerable vital informations which are not available anywhere. So having discussed those things, let us now discuss about the challenges of corruption. Okay. Corruption is not a recent phenomenon. In second ARC says that corruption is not a recent phenomenon. Even Kautilya's Arthashastra mentions about these things. Not only that, since corruption is present everywhere, even the international organizations have come up with a protocol to curb the corruption. Right? So the things given by Kautilya are very important. Already, like nearly 2 times, you have got questions. And in polity and public administration, Kautilya's things are very, very important. Like if I can compare one person, say for example, Mahatma Gandhi ji, has is most important for all the civil service aspirants. Why? Because many questions are coming. Similarly, in polity and public administration, Kautilya is very, very important. If you want to trace something, if you want to say that Indians also had something with respect to administration, then it is invariably the Kautilya's works. Corruption is not a recent phenomenon. Corruption is not a recent phenomenon. It has been with us through several centuries. Even at the time, Kautilya wrote Arthashastra long before some 2000 years back, commenting on the political economy of the Mauryan era. He said, just as it is not possible to taste honey. Just it is has not possible not to taste honey or poison placed on the surface of the tongue. Even so, it is not possible for one dealing with the money of the king not to taste money in however small quality it may be. So here, Kautilya has taken a very negative view. He says that those people who are dealing with the affairs of the king, definitely they will be corrupt. He has given one logic. He says that if you put honey on your tongue, if you put poison on your tongue, can you hold that without tasting that? So here, if this is given, elaborate, do you agree? So what will be your answer? Think it over, read this one. So if this is given in the exam, like explain or discuss what you will be writing or what the things which comes to your mind. Okay, here you can apply the two things we have discussed earlier, like how to deal with corruption. That is one values and another is institution. Here, in this point, you can mention that a man of integrity is uncorruptible. A man of integrity is uncorruptible. So this may be wrong with that person. It may be correct in general, but if you are a man of integrity, this is not the correct comparison. That is one thing. Second one, he says that all the public servants, all the civil servants, all those people who are working for king, they will be some or the other way tasting the king's money. So for that, institutional measures in the form of reward and also punishment have to be there. Right here, there is no need for you to like agree to this statement. It's correct in general, but it is not applicable to the man of integrity. And this example is not that correct. See, we cannot connect two things which are entirely different. Right? This may be true, like your answer should be according to Kautilya, what he has said are generally true. But a man of integrity is uncorruptible. That is one point. And has Kautilya has pointed out, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So there has to be institutional measures to check these kinds of behavior and work. Next, the same logic has used here also. Just as fish moving inside water cannot be known when drinking water, even so, officers appointed for carrying out works cannot be known when appropriating money. I'll read it again. Just as fish moving inside water cannot be known when drinking water, even so, officers appointed for carrying out works cannot be known when appropriating money. So here too, in fact, you can disagree. Here too, you can disagree because now the things have changed. Now there are certain rules, regulations where the public servant is made accountable. So here, like it's not the case like fish moving inside the water when it's drinking water or not, we cannot make out. Now those days The things were different. This was 2000 years back. Now we have got right to information, we have got transparency, we are using technology. Now we can make out where the fault is to a greater extent. But you have to give other reasons also because of these things. It is difficult for us to like pinpoint the things, right? So that is the way of thought which you have to use here. It is possible to know even the path of birds flying in the sky, but not the ways of officers moving with the intention concealed. Here, to a greater extent, you can agree. Because you won't be knowing, as you are aware, values are mental constructs. Mental constructs. Your ethics are mental constructs. Your attitudes are mental constructs. Constructs are those things which cannot be directly measured or observed. So it is very, very difficult for us to say what is there in an officer's mind. The motive, the motive behind an individual's work, we cannot find out. Here, not only in public service or civil service, this is true in general also. So here, the things I am interpreting are the things in broader sense. What I wish is, I want my students to interpret better than me, right? King should make those who have amassed money wrongfully yield it up. Means those who have made a lot of money wrongfully should give back that money and should charge them in their works so that they do not consume property or discard what is consumed. So it simply says that the institutional mechanisms have to be there so that the person who is doing good should be rewarded and the person who is doing wrong should be punished. But those who do not consume the king's goods and increase them in just ways should be made permanent in their offices, being devoted to what is agreeable and permanent to the king. So it's simply saying that those who are honest should be rewarded. Right? Corruption is not a recent phenomena and it is also global phenomena. This is only a statement. Here you have to take into consideration of this United Nations Convention Against Corruption. This is at the international level was adopted way back in 2003, providing an international instrument against corruption. Corruption is like a cancer. Second ARC, in second ARC report, they say that corruption is like a cancer. Think it over like how. Think how cancer affects the health of an individual and correlate to corruption. Just 30 seconds. Okay, come back. So here, second ARC says that, okay, we got an answer. Corruption gradually spoils the organization. Great. Not gradually, fastly. It's very difficult for corruption person to leave corruption. Pragnaji is wrong, I feel. Increase day by day. As concert, take cell by cell. Okay, good. Corruption can only be avoided by taking certain measures. Very general, Saurav. Very general. You're not specifying the terms. Okay, okay. Here, as you're aware, corruption, how it happens? Corruption happens because of the multiplication, multiplication of the cells. Say, for example, multiplication of cell in geometric proportion. Say you have got 2. So this 2 will become 4. This 4 will become 8. This 8 will become 16. So these things will move in geometric proportion. A thing which was very, very small here, in a very short span of time, not gradually, like disproportionately it moves. And here the logic is that corruption like cancer spoils the other things also, other healthy cells also, in the way corruption spreads. Okay, right? Are you getting me? So corruption not only multiplies, it also kills and spreads to all the nooks and corners. If, say, for example, if corruption is here, it will over a period of time spread to the entire organization, entire nation. And once it spreads, there is no medicine because the whole body is cancerous. Okay, let us discuss in the words of corruption, second ARC report. Corruption can be portrayed using the symbolism of serious illness as cancer. So we can equate corruption to cancer, something that spreads relentlessly, very fast, from office to official to official, department to department, undermining the institution after the institution until the whole system perishes. See, the same thing, what you have told is correct, pretty correct. But the thing is, see the language here, see the terms. So if you use these kind of terms, you'll get good marks. So here, corruption, like cancer, relentlessly, without rest, spreads from official to official. Today, if one official is corrupt, tomorrow this may spread to another 3, 4 officials make become corrupt. Today, say for example, one department is corrupt. Over a period of time, all the departments may be corrupt, undermining institution after institution until the whole system perishes. So, when will the corruption stop spreading? Corruption stops spreading only when all the cells are cancerous. Right? The conclusion is inescapable. So, what is the conclusion? What is the way out? Sorry. Corruption must be eradicated so that the system can be nursed back to health. Or even better, it needs to be stopped before the primary grades to the secondary. So it says that if corruption is present in all departments, then inevitably it's not possible. So the best way is when the corruption is at the small initial level, then itself we have to see that the corruption is eliminated. We need to do something over and above law enforcement. Second, as he feels that rules and regulations are not sufficient. Rules and regulations are present. We should do something more than that. We need to do something over and above the law enforcement. Unscrupulous elements have always been one step ahead of law. See, your Nirav Modi, they found out the loopholes. See, Nirav Modi directly did not cheat anyone. They did not cheat anyone. They just took up the loopholes. Harshad Mehta, what he did, he also just took up some of the loopholes present. Similarly, these unscrupulous, corrupt elements are always one step ahead of law. They know how to bypass the law. Let me give an example to you. In civil service code of conduct, there is one thing, that is, a civil servant should have only one spouse. Means if he is a man or woman, he can marry only one man or one girl, only one. All the civil servants are following that. All the civil service servants are following that in letter. But not spirit. Then just in letter they are following. No civil servant has more than one wife or more than one husband. But there are many civil servants who have got immoral relations, fidelicious relations with many. In fact, they have with superstars, film stars. So it was said that like long before, like one of my friend told, he was like his uncle was a IFS officer. There was a shooting. In fact, if I reveal the things, it will be a very good scam like kind of thing. So I won't reveal the names. So he was a IFS officer. There was a shooting. Very famous superstars were there in that movie. So here, this IFS officer was having everything. He has money, all the things. So for allowing them to shoot in the forest for some time, he asked, in addition to money, many other things, many other things in the form of men, material, other things. I think you got. So this is the kind of things which are happening. Means here why I said is they are just following the law in letter, but not in spirit. By this way, these people are one step ahead than law. If you make a law, they know how to bypass the law. Nirav Modi, Vijay Mallya, all these people, they never violated the law directly, but they found ways. Well, we all know that cancer of corruption has seeped into the bloodstream of our polity. The $1 million question that stares us in the face is what can be done other than what we have been doing in the name of combating the evil. If a part of human body suffers from gangrene, doctors might advise surgery. Gangrene, you can say like rotten. When gangrene spreads to all, or you can say cancer. So when only a part is affected by cancerous cells, then doctor says, okay, you remove this surgery, you remove this part, it will be okay. When gangrene spreads to all nooks and corners, probably surgical amputation cannot be the mode of management. Think that the whole body, cancer has spread to the whole body. Can we have surgery to the whole body? No. The punitive methods in the form of criminal law and corruption and disciplinary action for the breach of conduct rules of public servants on one hand and preventive measures in the form of proactive vigilance on the other hand may need to be strengthened and the loopholes plugged. But this may not suffice. As history shows, unscrupulous elements have always been one step ahead of the law. We need to do something over and above the law enforcement. So, in general, this can be followed. But at present, it is not possible. One of the reasons is unscrupulous element or the people who are corrupt. They are one step ahead than law. They can make out the loopholes and use those loopholes for their advantage. Macroeconomic impact of corruption, very important. This data you have to use in most of the answers. So he has given very authentic data here. Second ARC. Here, macroeconomic for many students in civil service, we don't have economics. So we don't have economics. That is the reason why we are not reading microeconomics. What we have is Indian economy. Indian economy means the principles of economics as applied to India, not the principles themselves. Okay. Macroeconomy. Macroeconomic means the things at the national level, at the larger level. Say, for example, NNP, Net National Product, GNP. gross national product, export and import. These are macroeconomic things. On the other hand, demand, supply, all these things are related to specific things. So these are microeconomic concepts, right? Sorry. Oh, okay. High levels of corruptions are associated with low levels of investment as share of GDP. Please concentrate here. High levels of corruptions are associated with lower levels of investment as a share of GDP. So what is GDP? Students, go ahead in 3 4 words. What is gross domestic product? Don't type the full form. What is gross domestic product? GDP. Okay, domestic product. What is gross domestic product? Summation of all goods and services produced in the economy. Pragna is good, but she forgot one thing. Total final production within the financial year within the territory of nation. Suman is correct. So here domestic, Pragna is correct, but she forgot domestic means sum total value of, to make the things simple, value of all goods and services produced in the territory of India, of a country, is known as gross domestic product. Right? So one more important for those of you serious aspirants, from now itself, try to draw Indian map, total finance production within the financial year within the territory of a nation. Correct. Okay, final goes. So here, please give due attention here. All of you should learn India map. Very, very important. You have to learn India map, if possible, a schematic thing with respect to world map also. That need not be proportionate, just a symbolic thing if it is there, that will be okay. Right? All of you, whenever you find time, try to write India map. Don't try to be very legible. Just little proportionate thing, if it is there, that will be enough. So he says that higher levels of corruptions are associated with lower levels of investment as a share of GDP. Means total value of final goods and services in the country, if you think that it is 100 crores or something like that, then within that the investment, especially for capital things, the share of investment will be very, very less. Clear? So in the gross domestic product, the share of investment will be very, very low if the corruption is high. Then countries with high levels of corruption invest very little on human capital. And in particular, investment in education is only minimal. Very, very important point. Sorry. Countries with high levels of corruption invest very little in human capital, and in particular invest in education is only minimal. Here many might have thought the other way. The main reason is this is because education provides fewer opportunities for corruption when compared to other types of more capital intensive public spending such as infrastructure and defense. Right? Here, what second ARC report says that is according to some findings. They say that if we spend on human capital, so spending on human capital means spending on education, spending on health, or spending on other things. which improve the human capital. If that is done, the amount that is a civil servant gets, or the chances of corruption in those areas are very, very less. So don't take other way. Like if we spend more on education, like as we see in our old movies, there will be one person, village headman. He never allows a school in the village. He thinks that if all becomes educated, then he cannot monopolize the thing. The concept is not like that. Here, these people are not spending on human capital because it is not giving opportunity to have money, fewer opportunity for corruption when compared to the more capital intensive things like infrastructure and defense, right? Say for example, Bofors case, millions of dollars. We don't know what has happened. Rafael deal, just a small deal, crores of rupees will be with the person who is involved. Pragna asked, so, sir, what is Polo Moro? He is a person. Is a person who has found this based on the research. So, say for example, according to second ARC, like that, he is also a person. Spending on relation of humans called. Sorry, spending on relations of humans called. That is, spending on relations is called as social capital. So, social capital is that bond what we have. Social capital refers to the bond or the relations what we have. On the other hand, spending on things which improve the human capacity as an individual, like education, hospitality, like food, these are spending on human capital. Spending on relations, like we have to be like we have to act with unity. These kind of things are spending on relations. Okay. Okay. Next one. High levels of corruption means reduced investment, a lack of credible guarantee of property and contract rights, and poor institutionalization of government. High levels of corruption means reduced investment. So if the corruption is high, investment is low. He has given the reasons also. Lack of credible guarantee of property. Say, for example, you are invested. Who knows tomorrow what happens? Because officials are corrupt. There is no property rights are not properly implemented. Poor institutionalization of the things. So the investment reduces. Corruption acts like a tax. Please concentrate here. Corruption acts like a tax. Say, for example, you are getting 100 rupees. If the tax is 25%, then if you are getting 100 rupees, tax is 25. Now you are getting only 75. So here, like tax, we have got corruption. Corruption acts as a tax. Corruption acts like a tax on foreign direct investment. While a 1 point increase in tax rate, 1 point increase in tax rate reduces foreign direct investment by 5%, an increase in corruption level from Singapore to Mexico is equivalent to 39% increase in the tax rate. So he simply says that, see, if I give the example, any person who is investing or forming a company think that he is getting 100 rupees. If you tax 25%, then net he will be left with only 75. Similarly, here corruption is also acting as a tax, right? Because of this corruption, the person who invests there will be getting very, very less amount. Okay. In another study, a one standard deviation improvement in corruption index is associated with over 4% increase in investment rate and half a percent increase in the annual growth rate per capita GDP. So he says that if in another findings, one standard deviation improvement in corruption index is associated with 4% increase in investment rate. So if corruption decreases by 2.4%, then the investment increases by 4%. Right? Okay. So next also we have got some very interesting facts. So we'll take 10 minutes break and we'll reassemble. Right? We'll reassemble by okay. By 8:25 we'll reassemble. Right? Okay. Control system can be of several types. One is penalty rates and another is internal control. So here we have discussed about internal control. Internal control means this is within executive. Why we call this as internal control system? Anyone? Why we call the control mechanisms which are done by the executive as internal control? Anyone? Okay. The reason is here, as you are aware, we have got separation of powers. In this separation of powers, in reality, the real power, rests with the executive. Because he is the person who is executing the things. He is the person who is spending the money. He may be getting the money from the legislature. The judiciary may be looking into the aspects whether these things are right or wrong. But in reality, the real power, the real authority rests with the executive. He is the face of the government. That is the reason why we say like Modi government. Why we say Modi government? Because he is the executive. He is the face of the government. This is the more apparent part. And control measures have to be applied. Whom to apply? It is the executive on which we have to apply. Right? So whenever you are talking about right to information, accountability, all these things to a greater extent, you have to write keeping in view executive in mind in particular. At the same time, you have to keep other branches of the government also, legislature and judiciary. Right? So internal control, because it is the executive who is controlling the funds, who is executing the things, who is having the real power in actual. Control system can be of several types: penalty types, internal control, external control. External control means outside the executive, and social control means controlled by the society. Most commonly used is penalty. Most commonly we use penalty measure to curtail corruption. What are these? Penalties typically of legal nature can range from prison sentence to termination of employment to recovery of the assets acquired illegitimately. So if we find someone as corrupt, by penalty method, we are putting a penalty. What is that penalty? That may be in the form of imprisonment or termination of the employment or recovering the assets. If he has already like amassed thousands of crores, recovering those things. These are the ways of penalty in general. He has given some important examples. Singapore stipulates penalty for corruption at imprisonment for 5 years and fine of $10,000. So here, if you convert, you have to convert this into nearly 100. Sorry. Oh, wait. In Singapore, these are the penalty rates. No need to remember, just to have the idea and to correlate the things. A civil servant against whom the charge of corruption is proved. You got a message. Okay. A civil servant against whom the charge of corruption is proved has to pay back the amount of bribe in addition to the judicial penalty. I repeat, see, in Singapore, what are the methods of penalty? One is imprisonment for 5 years, or the amount, and the amount civil servant against whom the charge of corruption is proved have to pay back the amount of bribe in addition to the judicial penalty. Means this is the judicial penalty. In addition to that, say for example, if he has taken, if it is proved that he has taken 100 crores, he has to give back this 100 crores and confiscating gains made by corruption. So this point you can add. As in Singapore, we have to do these things. If the corruption is proved, has to pay back the amount that he has taken, and also in addition, this has to be in addition to the judicial penalty. All right. Stringency of penalty may not necessarily provide needed deterrence. See, this is very important. This you can correlate to institutional measures. So how to prevent corruption, or the ways to fight corruption? We have discussed two ways. One is value and another is institution. So here you can write down the limitations of institutional measures. So there are many countries where the penalty is so high, even then corruption is high. We'll discuss those things. The punishment in Thailand, punishment in Thai penal code is significantly higher than the punishment provided for similar offences in other countries. In Thai penal code, the Thai penal code prescribes life imprisonment. Life imprisonment means till you die. Sorry, till you die, you will be imprisoned. Or death penalty for an offense, for an offender convinced of corruption. Yet, Thailand figures among the countries with the highest levels of corruption. Right? See here, death penalty, life imprisonment for corruption. Don't you think this is a very harsh punishment? Even if it is present in Thailand, there is high level of corruption. So depending only on institutional measures won't affect. What is important is that penalties should be capable of being implemented. Just by stipulating penalty in the law is not sufficient. They should be capable of being implemented. So in Thailand, simply they said that, okay, if you are found corrupt, guilty of corruption, you will be imprisoned for life. But it is not implemented properly, effectively. A, at minimum, corruption, if proved, should be penalized with the termination of government employment. Very important. So at the very minimum level, if you find someone involved in corruption, if it is proved, then they have to be terminated. Where employment in civil service is highly regarded and brings prestige, dismissal means disgrace for the entire family and therefore members of the family have an incentive to discourage corruption. So this is very important. This is not happening in India, where employment in civil service is highly regarded and brings prestige. Dismissal means disgrace to the entire family. Therefore, members of the family may have an incentive to discourage corruption. If you are not dismissed from the government employees, then the family may not discourage you. They may, in fact, encourage you. See, that officer's wife is having a necklace of lakhs of rupees. You have not brought me anything. So why? Because here, if you're involved in corruption, somehow, even if you are caught, your job won't be terminated. A stipulation prohibits employment of such civil servant in private sector, makes the cost of indulging in corruption very high, right? Okay. Okay. Dear students, I'll explain these things tomorrow. So somehow, like I'm not able to concentrate. Somehow in reading also some like